Sport.Fun, it's a Web3 game that feels like Web2, where people are collecting athletes and playing dynasty-type league fantasy sports with each other for prizes and bragging rights.
Everything is on-chain, but we've obfuscated it so it doesn't feel that way. You could be someone who just likes to, let's say, speculate and trade. I think this guy is going to be worth more. He's undervalued. Or you can win on the game side, where you actually picked the right players who won. For a month later, for a paying user to still continue paying 50% rate is like pretty mind-blowing. And we almost can't believe it, but then we go in the Discord and we talk to our community and it's like, people just love playing this game. And we start targeting normies through like a couple of partnerships we have. We have partnerships with OneFootball, Fantasy Football Scout UK, RotoWire, some content creators, some professional athletes that are yet to be announced. Lots of channels where you can go and find like more casual fantasy sports users.
Hey everyone, I'm Maddie, co-founder of Legion, joined today by AJ, co-founder of Sport.Fun. Super glad to be joined and dive into more about what you guys are working on and kind of the unique take to sporting fantasy games and sport prediction markets and everything that Sport.Fun kind of lends itself to. So we'll dive much deeper into this on this call into what Sport.Fun is, what makes it special, why you're working on it and kind of your background. But to kick us off before getting into any of that, in one sentence, how would you describe Sport.Fun to existing fantasy sports players?
I think to existing fantasy sports players, this is more of a dynasty league where it's medium to long term versus people who maybe have like single season leagues or they're playing week to week.
Love it. That's super cool. I know when I used to play fantasy sports, one of the aspects I kind of missed the most was that you're starting afresh every season and there's no kind of carryover or momentum that you're building.
Or even, you asked about fantasy players. I think also people who are in this realm are FIFA Ultimate Team players. Right? Yep. That's a big crowd. And as someone who's been into it for many, many years, it's frustrating that why does it reset every year? Why, you do all this work and then it goes to zero.
Makes sense. Well, okay. So that's to the fantasy sports players. So people are starting to wrap their head around, what it is we're doing here. But how would you describe it in one sentence to investors that you're pitching?
To investors, Sport.Fun is a new paradigm of fantasy sports, or also maybe more broadly, the financialization of sports and fandom, much of the way that FanDuel and DraftKings were. When they came along, everyone was wondering, what is this? How big is this going to be? Is this going to stick around? And I think we are entering that same era.
But not quite sports betting, though, if I understand correctly.
Correct. Yeah, this is not betting. It's not gambling. We have designed the game to be skill-based and more on the fantasy side. But there is money involved, right? So it is financialized. We've just taken a very unique angle to approaching that.
And finally, to bring it home and make sure it rings for everybody who's listening to someone maybe who, not technical, not into Web3, maybe not even into fantasy sports. How would you describe, Sport.Fun to your parents?
To them and people like that, I just say it's a really fun game. So people I run into at the dog park or something like that, they're like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, I work on this really fun game. It's about sports.
Yeah, I mean, everybody can relate to that, so that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, on that point, are people playing? Are they even aware that there's a Web3 component necessarily?
I think most of our users are, because that's where we've attracted them through crypto Twitter, and that's sort of where most of the team comes from. So those are the people in our network. So yeah, they are aware, but it is designed and being further developed to make it so that people who join from maybe new channels that are not crypto really don't have to have any idea, especially because we label the currency in game, which is USDC, we label it gold. So it kind of has this like a little bit more gamified feeling. Everything is on chain, but we've obfuscated it so it doesn't feel that way.
So to shoot my shot at a one sentence kind of explanation then, Sport.Fun it's a Web3 game that feels like Web2. All the on-chain is abstract the way where people are collecting athletes and playing dynasty-type league, fantasy sports with each other for prizes and bragging rights.
Exactly. Yeah, I think maybe the only tweak to that would be that you can win multiple ways. There's two paths. There's you can trade because the players' tokens have values that go up and down based purely on supply and demand. So you could be someone who just likes to sort of, I'd say, speculate and trade. "Hey, I think this guy is going to be worth more. He's undervalued." Or you can win on the game side where you actually picked the right players who won and you get points. So you can win either way or both.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I think existing fantasy sports players can probably relate to that. In the models where you have a certain salary to spend, right? There's like players that you can kind of say, oh, they're cheap. I'll pick him up, sell him when he's higher, grow my existing budget to work with. So,
or like dynasty players, I'm still playing dynasty with a bunch of friends, and you may pick a rookie or some young athlete, or you may pick someone up off the waiver wire who turns out to be amazing, who was worthless before.
yeah,
But unless your team, makes it deep into the playoffs, or hopefully you win your league, there's nothing you really say about it other than cool, you drafted him. But in this world, you could have traded him and you could have sold him and taken some profits.
Yeah. Or you can hold on to him because it is dynasty for the next season.
Exactly.
Amazing. Okay. To continue that line of thought, whether it's being a trader or an investor or picking a top sleeper, running back, in business as a founder, you have to be both right and contrarian, right? To be profitable, right? It's not enough to just go with the crowd. So on that note, what does everyone not realize yet that Sport.Fun is already ahead of? What's your thesis that's both right and contrarian?
We definitely sit in a unique space in between all of our competitors. What we're doing right is that the players themselves are unlicensed. So that's maybe something important to point out, is that we don't have the official licenses, nor do we need them, because it's all public domain. We don't use their faces. We don't use club logos or anything. So we're able to keep more money in the system for the players versus other official products. They have to pay out huge license costs, which it was extracts from the system. So we keep more money in the system. All the players are essentially ERC20 tokens versus other products. They may be NFTs, which are highly illiquid, difficult to trade, or have high entry barriers, right? Like if you want the best guy, if you want Mahomes, he's probably going to be expensive as an NFT.
He hasn't been playing great recently.
I know. He's actually not the top priced quarterback in our NFL product yet.
Oh my God. Who's taking out a crown?
Josh Allen.
Of course. Yeah. You've used the word player a couple of times, but I guess there's two different types of players, right? There's people playing the game, and then there's the collectible, athletes that are playing in the competitions.
Yeah. If we try to be as clear as possible, I should say athletes and users, because you're right, player could be both.
I just want to make sure people, listening aren't confused. But yeah, that
Totally.
makes sense. Got players on both sides. And so the fact that you do things like not, having to pay out licensing means that for the users, for those players, there's more kind of the prize pool is larger, all else equal.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I think that's on more of like our Web3 competitor side. On sort of the Web2 competitor side, where I look at, again, we are not gambling, but we still look at those users, right? It's those same consumers who they're already watching the game. They already love these athletes. They want to have some skin in the game, right? So we still look at them as competitors in that sense. And I think the other thing that people haven't realized is the medium to long-term nature of our game is that as a consumer, how I've described this to investors is that DFS and sports gambling is like trading 0-day options. And normal people should not be doing that. But my God, has the whole industry gone towards shoving it down everyone's throats. And I think it's really unhealthy. Like most people should not be doing that, because if you're wrong, you lose your entire bet. You're at zero. Our game is much healthier for, I think, average consumers, because if you come in, you buy Mahomes and you had a crappy game like you did last night, you still own all his shares. Now, his price went down a little bit because some people soured on him and think, he's going to have a bad game next week too. But you still own all your shares. You can sell them. You can use them next week and the week after and the week after.
What you're saying is it's not like I bet, Mahomes will have 200 passing yards, and then I lose my entire bet because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or lose all the parlays that I've built with that assumption.
Exactly. It really is much more like the financialization really is much more like a stock market.
Nice.
And this has been tried before in Web 2. Like the biggest one that people may know who are watching was called Football Index. It was big for many years. I forget how many. And, Adam, he was very big in that game. He made a lot of content, and he ended up losing a lot of money because the company went bust because it was not on chain. Nobody could verify that the funds and the liquidity were there for trading the shares. And so the company ended up mixing their operational funds and the liquidity for the shares in one bucket.
Where have I heard that before?
Exactly. And so
Yeah.
ours is verifiable on chain that like all the money that's in the liquidity pool, we can't even touch that, right? It's all guarded by the smart contracts. You can just buy and sell versus we have our company treasury, which is separate.
Vitalik started Ethereum, right, to protect his WoW account, right? He was worried that Blizzard could own everything. So, yeah, so you're a sports fantasy sports game where the users kind of provably own their assets and their resources, and even if you go bankrupt tomorrow, they still have all the USDC and all the assets that they own. Nice.
Exactly.
Well, cool. I mean, that's definitely sounds like differentiation. You know, a right and contrarian bet from both Web 2 and Web 3 competitors. But from your perspective, what signs are you looking for in the market, in your kind of adoption and user behavior? You know, the next 1 month, 1 quarter, 1 year, right, to kind of validate, yes, we're on the right track. Like we're gonna take over.
Yeah, I think in the near term, we want to see the current users that we do have, which is rapidly approaching 20,000 paying users. We want to see them enjoying the game as well as continuing to use the product, meaning trade. And that is the main way that we as a company take revenue, which is a fee on trade volume. And we are seeing that. So we can measure people enjoying the game via social media as well as our Discord. Our Discord is, especially within Web3, is probably the most positive Discord that there is. You go in there and people are just talking about sports and athletes and like, who got the right picks. And it's just a lot of fun to hang out in there while you're also like, watching a game. The other way is then volume, and volume's been really healthy the last couple of weeks. So we want to see that in the near term. And then you said 1 quarter and 1 year. In 1 quarter, we will start targeting more normies, whereas now we've targeted almost none. There's a couple more tweaks we need to make to the product so that it's easier to onboard, let's say. Like we just turned on MoonPay. I think we can refine that a little bit. We may also pursue like an actual official Apple App Store app, which right now we're just a mobile or a desktop site as well as a PWA. So if you do add it to your home screen, it feels like a very native app. But we know normies like to just search the App Store. And there's just a couple other like first-time user experience things in the flow that could be made better. When we do that and we start targeting normies through like a couple of partnerships we have partnerships with OneFootball, Fantasy Football Scout UK, RotoWire, some content creators, some professional athletes that are yet to be announced. Lots of channels where we can go and find like more casual fantasy sports users. We want to see them on board. We want to see them join. We want to see them retain and use the product. And then in 1 year, we definitely want to enter more sports markets. So right now we started with soccer. In the last week, we launched NFL, which has been really fun. I think it's going great. And then the devs have done the foundational work now that we've added a second sport. They've done all the hard work at sort of like a unified app layer. So you have one account, one USDC balance, one rep score, like VIP loyalty program thing goes across all sports. Now to add more sports is only like 2 to 3 weeks of dev time. So that's exciting for us. Yeah. So it's about us figuring out what are the other sports markets that will be most interesting to our current users, as well as attracting others that are not yet using our product.
Yeah. Do you have a sport in mind that would be the next one to add?
Everyone, and we have it on our website. It says NBA would be the third one. There's a lot of demand for NBA. Although I just heard a really interesting anecdote from one of our investors, which is, and this is somebody who is a very big fantasy NBA player, user, and loves NBA, and he said it's actually a terrible fantasy product, NBA. He said nobody likes it. He said, I play with all my friends. He's like, we hate it because there's so many games during a week, right? And there's so much rotation and so much injury that like it's a full-time job just to be on top of what's happening. And it's a little different than like, DFS or pick'ems, where you might just log in one night and be like, oh, I think, the Nuggets are going to win. Sure, that's fine. You can do that. But our game is medium to long term. You kind of have to know what's happening all the time. So it might be too much on the NBA side. Just might be that the schedule and the way that they rotate is not really fun in a fantasy way.
Or maybe you have some kind of agentic manager, some head coach manager or something that you can plug in, so you don't personally need to log in all the time.
That's true. We have announced a partnership with Sire, who was previously D King, and so they are working on that for us right now. They have really amazing sports agentic tech, probably better than anyone in the space. They've been working on their computer AI vision product for like 8 years. So yeah, hopefully we can plug that in soon. But some other interesting sports that were thrown out there that now I've been marinating on is like F1, golf, tennis, and those three mostly because they have really good following from fans, but they don't really have a main product that they use.
I would think that F1 would, but I don't know of one, so you must be right?
I'm sure there are some out there, but it's not like to the level like the fandom and the following that F1 and golf have is like not far off from an NFL or from a soccer. I mean, it's very
Right.
serious, very big, but it's if you want to play fantasy NFL, you want to play fantasy soccer, you could probably name a dozen right off the top of your head
Yep.
versus there isn't really that dominant product for those sports. So that could
Okay.
be interesting to maybe go more blue ocean.
Yeah, I could show up to the next Token 2049 and watch the F1 and be playing, betting on my favorite racers on SDF. So that makes sense. Well, cool. I mean, so impressive traction so far. I think it makes sense, the kind of your differentiation from both the Web 2 players and Web 3 players. So let's say, the growth continues. You're launching these additional sports. Walk me through this world where Sport.Fun is the top sports app, right? Not just in Web3, but everywhere, right? Why do users love it? What do they love about Sport.Fun?
I think what they love is what we've touched on before, which is that there's many ways to be right and to win. So, and you could do it across any sport, which means there's basically arbitrage opportunity all the time. You could find the next young soccer wonder kid and you could buy him when his shares are super cheap and nobody cares about him. And maybe in a couple weeks, months, years, like he becomes the next Messi and you're on top of the world. You could play that route. You could play the route of, hey, there's a game tonight and this guy is super cheap, or he's even fairly priced, but you just know he has a great matchup and he's going to win, and he does, and you win that night. You can cross every single sport versus when you're in your current fantasy NFL product or your current NBA, whatever you're playing, you can't just like go with your friends to play another sport. That doesn't work. Here, you have one portfolio that has all of your athletes in one place.
That's actually super cool. Can I effectively play like multi-sport leagues with the same set of friends?
Obviously, the tournaments like NFL is you're not competing against NBA athletes, but those games are all happening at the same time. The tournaments are all happening at the same time. So you can, for sure. You could like see your friends, like who bought what and how is he performing. That's an interesting idea that maybe we do surface it in like a more aggregated format, which could be really cool.
Yeah, I think this would be, if you could do that, right? This is then every sports center's, fans greatest dream.
Exactly. It's the ESPN app, which has, all the top scores from every sport, right? Except
Yep.
it's the fantasy version.
So to reach that point, what user behaviors have to change from what people are doing today?
That's a big one. And it does still hinge on this concept of medium to long termness, which again, I think is healthy for the average consumer. So I think this is like, people need to stretch or like drink water, right? These are all healthy things we should all be doing. But we have seen that behavior where people come in and they, say they pick the winning athlete for that night. And they're like, oh, I didn't make like a 5X. It's like, right, because the opposite end of that coin, the other side of that coin is that you would have lost it all. So the rewards on the day-to-day basis are lower, but it is a longer term game that over the long term, I think is more rewarding for many reasons, not just financially. And people are getting that, right? The other thing is that the main currency in the game is USDC. And so It's a bit of a hedge to the crypto markets. I know we're thinking, oh, we obviously want to be beyond the crypto markets at some point, but for our current users, as Bitcoin's been going down and alts have been getting killed the last couple of weeks, everyone in our game is super happy. They're like, dang, I'm so glad that I had money in here because the price has either been flat or slightly up. And they're like, if I had kept it in memes, I would have lost it. So it's kind of like another healthy thing is that essentially you are in stable coins.
Or collectibles or an athletes, which are
Right.
diversify.
Hopefully you're an athlete that you pick the right ones and they're going up.
Yeah, hopefully.
Not someone who broke his leg last night.
Cool. Okay. Well, so in this world again, where Sport.Fun is kind of the top app, for you personally, what about your background, would have led you to this, right? How did it get you started, and how has it carried you forward into this future state?
It might sound like made up and too good to be true, but like truly my passions since I was as young as I can remember are trading stocks. So, and then eventually that became crypto, but trading assets, let's say. I think when I was 6 or 7 years old, this was still dial up internet days. And I had a floppy disk game that my dad gave me that was a stock market trading game on a floppy disk connected to dial up so you could get the real price feeds of
Oh,
stocks.
wow.
It's
Interesting.
basically a paper trading game. And I'm
Yeah,
like
yeah,
6 or 7 years old playing this. That was like my favorite game.
I've
Everyone
never
else,
heard of that before. But wow, that's quite the experience as
I've
a
tried to
6-year-old.
look it up, but like I need to go and find what it was called so I can kind of relive that. But anyways, that's like me as a kid. That's what I enjoyed doing was just like finding underpriced assets and trading them. So trading has always been in my background as well. Always been a huge sports fan. It's fluctuated what's been my favorite sport throughout the years, but it's usually been a mix of soccer, NFL, college football, golf. So somewhere between those. And you always want to have more engagement. It's fun to watch. It's fun to, cheer on your favorite athletes, but you're kind of like, what about me? Like, I want to be part of this. And then you combine that with trading. And then as well in the last, I've been full-time in crypto since 2020. And so obviously we're all here and we all think that like crypto offers tremendous benefits over the old Web2 world that's completely centralized and owned by three players. And we're using that. I think when people really understand what Sport.Fun is and why it uses the blockchain, they go, oh, I mean, I won't say who, but it was a C-level at a really big Web3 company that everyone knows. He was understanding our product and he goes, thank you for actually building something real and not just another shitcoin platform. He was like, this is really interesting what you guys are doing. So I think people in the space realize that we're sort of using it for what it was always intended for.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't even fully, click with me until we've had this conversation about how, you're allowing users to actually own their assets and kind of get skin in the game. Like I can definitely relate to this feeling of, you watch sports and you want to have something, a more tangible connection. One way, or one of the only ways at the moment to do so, other than social kind of, connections, is to bet on the match, right? And now it's a 0-1 payoff, as you were saying, right? You could lose everything. And generally speaking, people tend to lose, right? Because the house always wins. Yeah. And so if you can remove the house, make it more peer-to-peer and make it, less 0-1, where people are, yes, they're having fun. Yes, there's a social aspect, and yes, there's skin in the game. And it's not this, without as ugly of a downside or negative side effects, right? Like that definitely makes a ton of sense to me.
Exactly. And because sports are not short term either, right? I mean, sure, there's the single matches or games that happen on a nightly basis, but really your athletes are around for years or decades, depending on the sport. And that's really what it's about, is following them. And we all do, right? We've all followed athletes and teams for decades. And so it makes sense to have a game that's aligned that way.
It's like the general manager type of simulator games, like those sort of games.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I was always a big fan of those. Yeah, so that makes total sense.
The other thing from my background that I didn't touch on is prior to this, I was at a crypto investment fund. So we had a liquid book and a venture fund. We made out of the venture fund probably 120, 150 investments. The liquid side, we were constantly moving in and out of the space. Through that time, I got to see the best and the worst of crypto and of founders. And it really was like this incredible learning experience that is priceless and you can't really get anywhere else. Sure, like some founders get it through experience, and that's really, really valuable. But being able to watch 100+ founders in crypto and see what works and what doesn't, that has been very, very valuable to me so far.
That makes a lot of sense. So the personal background, love sports, love trading, even back in floppy disk and dial-up days, and have that perspective where you've seen a lot of successes and failures. It helps as an operator. That definitely is an advantage.
You basically get to speed run, right? Like when I hear, Adam or other people on the team say, "Oh, let's do this," and yeah, it sounds like a great idea, but I've seen that done 10 times and it doesn't end well.
Nice. Yeah, it's super invaluable experience. So yeah, continuing on this thought experiment of SDF is now the top sport app in the world, both in Web 2 and in Web 3 games. What businesses or apps or competitors, like who has to lose, who has to die off for this to happen?
I think it really is sort of the DFS and the sports books. I think the free fantasy will always be there. People that's almost like a community thing. I mean, at least for me, I only play because it's a way to keep up with your friends from old cities you used to live in, or, bygone eras, maybe old schoolmates. So I think that will always be there to an extent. And of course, DFS and sports gambling will always be there. But I think it's going to be really good for consumers that they move off of those and start using us more. And we see this. What did the NFL just ban? Prop betting? Or was it the NBA?
I didn't see that, but that would make sense. I mean, yeah, prop betting is huge, and it's just such
I don't know if it was prop betting, but it was like, yeah, they definitely were like, you cannot bet on injuries or fouls or things like this. Basically, all the betting scandals that we've been seeing where players and coaches have been involved because it's pretty easy to manipulate the bets. It's kind of just showing like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I honestly had not seen that news, but it makes total sense. And I know prop bets are very popular, especially with parlays, right? And you talk about like risky 0-1 payoffs, and people are making like 3 bets strung together that all need to pay off. I mean, yeah, it's like leverage. You see these leverage trading 1,000x. It's no different than that, actually.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Obviously not there quite yet, but on a healthy trajectory to get there. You have strong traction to date. Like, what are some of your favorite or the numbers you're most proud of? Those could be key metrics or maybe even moments that made you realize, wow, we're really on to something big here.
I think it's been, honestly, the retention has been the most impressive. Let me just pull it up here. So, for example, I think we're like 18,500 paying users to be exact. And the week one, I'll go into other cohorts, but the week one retention, right? So no matter when a user joined, after the first week, how many of them are still playing the game? It's 71%. And that's extremely high. Yeah, I think for any measurement, whether it's a DFS game, whether it's a mobile app game, almost any type of product you could look at as extremely high. And the way we're measuring this retention too, people say, oh, well, how are you measuring that? We're measuring this by an actual paid action on chain. So this is not just opening the app, logging in, checking scores. This is you paid a fee, which means you either traded a player or you renewed contracts, which is a concept that we can get into. But essentially, they paid money that day or in that week. Sorry. So yeah, 71%. And then a month later, so after 1 month, we're at 51%. So for a month later, for a paying user to still continue paying, 50% rate is like pretty mind blowing. And we almost can't believe it. But then we go in the Discord and we talk to our community, and it's like people just love playing this game. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Even the people who are like, let's say, more negative or upset about something,
Sure.
Whatever it may be,
There's always
they're still playing.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, 51% retention after a month. I mean, I can't think of other products that have that type of retention. That's like heroin level types of retention.
Yeah, but this is healthy. This is the healthy stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, bad analogy, but yeah, that's extremely high retention. What you touched on it a second there, but what are some of the activities people are actually doing inside of the app at the moment?
The main things that you do are you trade players. So you sort of go into like the transfer market and you buy and sell players. The UI looks very similar to anything you would see in crypto in terms of trading tokens. The other thing you do is, of course, in our system, you really don't set lineups. And this is maybe another behavior that people have to learn or in a sense unlearn, because there's nothing for you to really do. Your lineup is the athletes that you own. Like that's it. There's no like clicking submit lineup or enter this week. Like if you own them before their game or match starts, you're in. And so like that's kind of the fun thing. I think what helps maybe users retain or have a good first time experience is when they join, they don't have to come in like, the Friday before the weekend and set a lineup. Otherwise, they got to wait till next week. And our game, you could join an NFL product right now. It's Monday morning, our time. You could buy Dak Prescott, who's playing tonight, and you would be in the tournament already. You could buy him 1 minute before the kickoff and you're in.
It's a portfolio you're managing whenever you want, right? Rather than lineups to set.
Exactly. So you're more managing this portfolio of like stocks, athletes, and then they get scored automatically based on if you own them before they entered the field. So it's this, I think fantasy players would call it like a rolling lock system, which is like really nice, really easy. So it's not setting lineups, but you're, managing your portfolio essentially. The other thing I mentioned is these contracts, as we call them, to prevent like whales or really anyone of any size from just coming in, buying a bunch of Mahomes today and sitting on him for 10 years and like essentially yield farming, because that's not what our product is. We have this concept of contracts. And so every game or match that they play in real life is one contract. And so when you trade an athlete, you buy it, it comes with 4 contracts. So that's where like the medium termness, essentially when you buy an athlete on our platform, you're sort of putting skin in the game over the course of the next 4 games that he has. You can extend their contract up to 8. So they could go out up to 8 games or matches. And again, that's the medium termness, but you have to come like that winds down, right? And so if you don't want to trade him or swap for another athlete, you're just like, I'm ride or die Mahomes. That's it. You need to renew the contract, and that costs money. That's essentially equal to what it would cost if you did a trade. So we just want people to be active in the market or sort of like pay an amount that is equal to that.
So if my and everything is obviously represented by a token, as you said earlier, I think at ERC20, right? So if I have Mahomes, as a player and he plays 4 matches or 8 matches, now he kind of expire. Is that token burned? And how does that, like, are there new Mahomes tokens minted? Like, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but how does that piece kind of work? Yeah.
No, that's a great question. Thank you. No, so you still own his shares or his tokens completely. And you can ride his price for infinity as long as he's an actual athlete. I mean, shoot, we'll probably have people retire and we'll have to figure out what to do then. But anyways, no, nothing gets burned. You still own them. In the UI, he just gets sort of like grayed or faded out in your portfolio. So that's to signal like, hey, this guy's not scoring you any points in the next game. But yeah, so there's some people who will do that, and that's fine, right? Because we have these 2 worlds where it's like traders and then the fantasy players, and they overlap depending on how much people want them to overlap.
As a trader, I could still buy Mahomes. I kind of hold on to him long term. As a fantasy player, I would want to rotate because I'm earning these points. The more like fresh I keep my portfolio. Yeah, but it's not like, oh, I missed the cutoff, or oh, I need to set it every week. It's a bit more flexibility than that, which definitely suits, I would imagine, most fantasy players who are not college students anymore and just have unlimited free time. Like I used to play a bunch of fantasy baseball, and similar to basketball, it's a full-time job managing, the lineup. So once I graduated college, I had no longer had time for that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we want it to be approachable to most users. That's the thing. Yep. And like there still are ways, if you're a hardcore person who's in college or for whatever reason you have all this free time, there are really nerdy hardcore ways to play this game, and like I do them when I get the time. But yeah,
I gotta go. Maybe now is a good time to pick up some not financial advice, but it was a good time to pick up some Mahomes after last night's performance.
Exactly.
I can see how these activities sound fun and lead to these like super high retention rates you've been seeing. Is there a single core loop or behavior that is best working? Or maybe asked differently, is there like a North Star metric that you guys try? Like what's kind of, the thing that most matters?
I think what most matters is retention and volume. Volume is people enjoying the product, like on a more immediate, real basis. And And so is retention. They're interlinked, right? Because we're measuring retention based on basically somebody trading that week. Um, yeah, that shows that they want to keep playing the game and their intention is to keep playing it. And the higher it goes, that means we have more people playing and more people enjoying it. Um, and we are also giving them, that means the game is also rewarding enough that they want to keep trading because there is a fee, right? It's not free to swap these players. So there is a bit of a cost there if you're selling one athlete to buy another one.
Is that just a gas fee, or is there like a protocol fee as well?
Oh no. So we actually do not have a gas fee. Well, we sponsor all the gas. So users in the game don't even need to have Ethereum in there or anything. They just
So you got Web 2 friendliness because of sponsored gas transactions.
exactly.
But there is a protocol fee as well, if I understand you correctly. So there's revenue. So you got the best of both worlds.
Exactly. So you don't have to think about gas. You don't have to like keep Ethereum in your wallet or any of this. Like you just say, I want to buy Mahomes. Boom. As long as you have USDC in there, it goes through. So we do try to make it as easy as possible. Yes. So there is a fee. The trading fee is 3%, which to most DeFi people, they will absolutely abhor that. And we heard that feedback. It was actually 5% in the beginning. And
Pretty high slippage. Yeah.
yeah. And like, DeFi people were freaking out. We eventually lowered it down to 3, which we think is a better middle ground. This is not a full DeFi product, right? This is not about having the lowest fee and the lowest slippage, but it's more of a consumer product. And so that 3% is there to basically make sure that we can, pay ourselves, keep the lights on, keep everything going and design the best product. It's also there so that there's a little bit of a barrier between trading. Because otherwise, if the transaction fee was so low, the hardcore people, which there's a lot of them, would just be like rotating through every athlete, and it kind of wouldn't be fair or fun to like the more casual user.
Yeah, I guess in any game like this, you want to avoid it, becoming a pay to play or those type or pay to win, whatever they call it in Web 2 gaming.
And I think it's probably good for me to touch on that fee and what we do with it, because there's some interesting things.
Yeah, and also a good opportunity for maybe a future token, stake the token, pay a lower fee rate. Yeah,
Exactly. That is one of the benefits that will be there on day one.
let's dive into this fee understand.
Yeah.
So, you guys obviously sponsor gas transactions because that makes it simple for, Web 2 users. You don't have to worry about Ethereum. So why do you have this USDC fee for trades and these sort of things? And what does that go to do?
20% of it we call for like OpEx, right? So we can keep the lights on. So that's, about 0.06 or 0.6 would be like our fee that we mostly keep. Although from that bucket, we also return a lot of that. We use that 20% bucket for marketing and referral programs. So there is a very healthy amount of referral programs that we do, which has been great for friends to be incentivized to onboard their friends. Then we also do with another 40%. We have a healthy amount of buybacks that we do in the game economy. And I think people are maybe can grok it, but just so I explain it a little bit more. So we take 40% of the fees and then we rebuy the athletes pro rata based on how many fees were paid on their token. The reason we do this is because, and we haven't touched.
The most traded players get the most buyback, if I understand you correctly.
Exactly. If Mahomes had $1,000 in trading fees, we would use $400 to just buy back his shares on the open market. And so the reason we do that, and we haven't touched on what the actual rewards in this game are yet, but you win what we call tournament points, or TP for short. So you win tournament points. And with those tournament points, you open packs. And in the packs are more shares of athletes. So it is an emission model, although it's very sustainably designed. Like at the rate that it's going now, it would take over 100 years for the maximum supply of players to be hit. So now we're getting into the weeds, but athlete tokens have a maximum supply of 25 million. That's the most there can ever be. Right now, circulating supply for most of them is around like 4 million. And so we do emit some as rewards. Now, why we're buying them back, maybe you're starting to get it, is we try to offset that emission using the fees. And so it really, and have been weeks where we measure this, where we've actually bought back more than was given out as rewards.
So it's actually deflationary Mahomes.
Exactly. So depending
Okay.
on exactly, we're always trying to tune it. We're monitoring it like crazy, and we want it. I mean, the idea is not that it's necessarily deflationary, but
Sure.
we want it to be stable, right?
Yes,
And
exactly.
we can do that through these buybacks using the feed. Because if we were to just give the USD feed to users, then you're in a little bit more of a murky territory with, is this gambling? Is this betting? Versus this is a more unique system where you're accomplishing the same thing through more clever methods.
And maybe it's, I mean, you mentioned getting into the weeds, but maybe it's worth having kind of a separate conversation, be a slightly different audience where we could really, walk through all the mechanism and the token, aspect. I know there definitely would be users who'd be interested in learning all those details. But yeah, I think most people, they're probably playing the game, enjoying it, and probably don't care too much about all the nitty gritty behind the scenes.
And that's kind of the great thing. I think that's why part of why we're offering the token is that there's a lot of people out there who think, wow, this is a really cool idea. They're doing great, but personally aren't going to join the game and be buying athlete tokens.
Fair. And you do offer a free kind of like paper trading version as well.
Exactly. We do have a free to play version, and that is how we actually started. We did a beta for 6 months where it was completely free to play.
And you kind of got great feedback and tested it out.
Yeah, exactly. We worked out a lot of the kinks. Obviously, it's slightly different once you throw real money into it. And so we've been learning that people's behavior changes. But yeah, so we continue to maintain the free to play version. And that is actually part of our like early next year go to market strategy is to funnel like free fantasy users, FIFA Ultimate Team players, into this game and see how fun it is, because it really is so fun. And we have one unified leaderboard. So free to play users could see, oh, wow, I'm like ranked really high. I'm beating a lot of these guys who are in the pro version of the game, which is what we call the paid version. Then they can just see, oh, well, if I just deposit money and I continue to be as good as I am, I'll be winning. So we think that'll be an effective strategy.
I'm curious. I have to ask, what's kind of the single biggest change in behavior from people doing the free game to the paid version?
That they are paying real fees and that people want to take money out, which is not surprising, of course, but it's
but they're depositing and withdrawing a bit. They're not just like one direction flows.
Right. No. We measure all of that. And like the net deposits in the system is still, we don't really say we have TVL, but if you were to check DeFi Llama, and we do have some dashboards, like the net deposits into the system is still over $9 million.
Awesome.
Which I think is pretty good for the first 3 months of a sports fantasy on-chain product.
And like you said, it's not your key metric. Like trading activity and usage would be much more relevant than the.
Yeah. We keep an eye on it, but yeah, we're not a DeFi product, so that's not what we really go around and tout.
Well, cool. Let's do some devil's advocate time here. We were talking about everything you guys were working on and the amazing success so far. But playing devil's advocate, why will you guys succeed where others have failed? I mean, you mentioned, for instance, another Web2 player that tried, this like athlete stocks for athletes type of approach. Why will Sport.Fun succeed?
Because myself and the rest of the team, we have all lived through these failures. Whether it's a consumer of the product, I was one of the earliest users of Sorare, which went to crazy highs. I think we have either a lot of people in the community or on the team who also were big into Top Shot, right? Like we have ridden through these, we've experienced them over decades, and we've realized what the flaws are. And so the reasons that we know this is going to work is like, A, it needs to be fully on-chain, verifiable, owned by the users, which it is. You need to have a healthy, sustainable economy. I mean, that goes for anything, whether Web2 or Web3, and we really have designed it such. And you just need to have a team who's made the mistakes before, right? Or has seen them and witnessed them. And so we really know from a company level, from a crypto, sort of all the weird crypto dynamics that are out there, what works and what doesn't. But yeah, being fully on chain, sustainable economy, and like an experienced team.
And maybe you've already answered the question, but what would you say is your unfair advantage over competitors?
I think the unfair advantage is that we have gotten to learn from their mistakes. We've gotten to sit by and watch even models and products that we once cheered on and thought, this is amazing. I hope it works. I think it'll work. And then we've gotten to see that it doesn't. And we all want this product to exist. That is why Adam started the company. It's like he didn't need to do this, like he could have just rode off into the sunset and lived his life. But he was like, I want to play this game and nobody's built it. And so I'm going to build it. And so I think when you have people, that is our other unfair advantage is that like we're building this because we want to play this product and we love this product.
That's sick. Yeah, that's awesome. And you generally find the best founders, right? They're solving a problem they can relate to and that they've had themselves. So great to hear that this is not, just an academic exercise for you guys. This is you're the first players of the game you're building, which makes total sense. Final kind of, devil's advocate question. What assumptions are you relying on, and what if those don't play out, right? What if you're wrong?
The assumptions we are relying on are that people love sports and that they love to have skin in the game. I don't think that's going to be wrong. In fact,
no,
I think
I wouldn't say. Yeah, those are
going to be
pretty
proven.
safe assumptions. Yeah,
that's a safe one. Specific to us, an assumption is sort of our whole model is built around trading. Although I think we have a fail safe for that. If that people, I don't know, become paralyzed and are like, I don't want to trade. But you do. Like, even when you have these discussions with people, and I know all the analytics, I know all the numbers, right? And I know what would be sort of call it like the chalk or the smart play. But you're sitting there and you're watching the tournament and you're like, dang, like I have not had good picks this week. And you're watching the game on TV and you're like, all right, well, here's the next game. And like Dak's playing tonight and like he could totally finish in the rewards. Like you're going to go and buy him, even if maybe the math says like that's not the smart play. So I think that assumption is safe that like people want to trade because they just want to follow their games. But if for some reason everyone got smart and started playing the chalk, we have that lever of the contracts, right, that we can pull. Whereas right now they're very cheap. If the economy swung towards people not wanting to trade and they just want to sit on the same people forever, then we just change the lever so that contracts are more expensive, trading is less expensive. It's sort of like the Federal Reserve, right? They have that lever where it's like, all right, well, we need people to be more risk on or more risk off. So I think we can counter that if it were to go that way.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't heard that term. Was it playing the chalk? Did you say? I'm unfamiliar actually with what that means.
Yeah. It's just like what's the safe bet? It's sort of like what's the probabilities? What's most likely to win, right?
Yeah.
And so people do that,
just not taking much of a opinion. Just saying, sticking with what the bookies are saying and these sorts of things.
Exactly. It's almost like running a delta neutral strategy type thing where you're going to like take like a little clip and you're going to win a little bit, but not that exciting.
It's betting for the 93%, favorite to win the match instead of the undervalued underdog. Yeah, gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Let's move on then to some rapid fire questions. I'll just read these each out, and if you can respond, in one sentence, kind of to each of them, we'll rip through them. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do rapid fire. Here we go. What are you doing that seems stupid now, but will seem genius in 18 months?
That we have tokens that are athletes that people can trade.
There you go. Complete this sentence. In 5 years, people will say, I can't believe we used to let Mahomes be under 5 cents. There we go. Some alpha.
Not financial advice, but I do think that.
What's so your hottest take about crypto that would get you canceled on Twitter is what?
Most people should not launch tokens.
Okay. I love it. The thing your biggest competitors will hate most about Sport.Fun is what?
That people love our game and we've been profitable from day one.
The metric that actually matters that nobody tracks is what?
Love of the game.
All right. How do you track that?
Like I said, you just go in the Discord and like compare that to any other Web3 Discord. Yeah.
Vibes.
Exactly.
The thing that will happen next that nobody is expecting is what?
That we have a lot of fun.
All right. There we go. Well, AJ, appreciate the conversation. Appreciate chatting through everything past, present, and future of SDF, Sport.Fun. I think it's very bright looking. Any closing thoughts to leave us with?
Yeah, just that I think we're really early in an entirely new, not only meta, which I think is at this point an overused term in crypto that just means something for a few months, but this is an entire new paradigm for sports fandom and financialization. Like just in the way, like I said this at the top, just in the way, like I can still remember when FanDuel and DraftKings were around and it was like, whoa, like what is this? This is kind of weird. Is it like they had all those legal battles too, but it obviously changed the entire space like forever. And I think we're doing the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we did the elevator pitches, I don't remember you actually using that terminology or that metaphor of like the stock market for athletes. Maybe you did, but that's how that's what clicked for me, right? Like stocks for athletes that I can trade, and they're volatile, they're changed from game to game, of course, but different payoff structure than like a bet where I lose everything or win. So the fact that hasn't really, I mean, it's been attempted before, as you said, but the fact that it hasn't been scaled up and caught on, and you use the benefits of Web3 to make sure people are protected with ownership, while not having the downsides because you have sponsored gas and is seamless, user experience, even for Web2 users. Like, yeah, I've definitely, I don't know about everyone who's listening, but I've come away definitely a lot more interested, more bullish, more ready to go pick up some cheap
Yeah.
Mahomes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe actually the last thing I would say then is that as you say it, you sort of have that. This is what a lot of people say is they're like, well, how has this not been done before? It's one of those ideas that people are like, wait, but it's so obvious. Once they hear it, once they see the game, they're like, oh, so anyone could do this. And we did have some copycats in our early days, right? They thought, oh, I'll just vibe code this in a weekend. Sure. I mean, they've all basically gone extinct at this point because in the background is way harder than it looks. I mean, you have to freaking know this stuff inside and out. You have to love it. It took the team over a year building in stealth before we even came out, right? Like the first tweet from our Twitter account was the product's live, come and play, which is the exact opposite of other crypto products where it's, hey, here's a trailer, here's an idea, here's a token. Come in. No. It's like, here's our product. Come be in our community. Like token lasts once like we've proven our business model and have been profitable.
I love that. That's super refreshing in this space, as you mentioned. So wish more builders had that mentality. Appreciate all your time. Appreciate the work you're doing, and glad to see the success. So AJ, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Matty.